science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And good evening. Welcome to Brannon Howse Live on this June 6th, Friday night, June 6th, 2025. Roger Stone is about to join us. We're going to talk about the dust-up between Elon Musk and President Trump. What does Roger Stone think about that? Let's ask Roger Stone also about what he thinks about the big, beautiful bill. What does he think about the midterm elections coming up? Who do? That sounds like a song. Who does Roger think will be running for president in 28? Does he have any names he can share with us? What does Roger Stone think about tariffs? Are they going to work? Are they not going to work? What's he think about Jerome Powell and interest rates? There's so much to talk to Roger Stone about. There always is. Then Leo Holman's going to join us. Do you know they're doing a test done in Texas? I'm going to show you videos of these driverless semi-trucks. Get ready. So much of these things are going to end the jobs of average Americans. It's really sad. Really sad. I don't know, maybe they want World War III so they can do away with some of the population that are, according to them, going to be useless eaters. Didn't one of them say we're going to keep people busy with drugs and video games? Then let's talk about, as I did in the Worldview Report tonight, I want to go in deeper on this. The commander of Edwards Air Force Base, he's a general Doug Wickert. He's saying, we better prepare for a Pearl Harbor 2.0 coming to our shores, This speech was made somewhere in early May, I think May 8th or somewhere around that. Well, since then we've had Ukraine sneak drones into Russia and blow up some of their bombers with drones. Wow. And people are warning, hey, that can happen here. That can happen to our stuff. This general's warning about the power grid going down. He says China's already in our grid. He's warning about cell towers. Your cell towers will be gone. He's warning about China going after Taiwan. He says one of the first things they're going to do, take down America's power grid. Are you ready? He's giving this to local community leaders as well, asking them, are you going to be ready? Because we all live in the same community. And he's saying this is going to happen with military bases all over the U.S. He is adamant when the war breaks out, it's going to happen eventually here on our soil. So I reported on it, but I actually went and found the 25-minute speech he gave, which he included PowerPoint. It's a fascinating presentation by this general, the commander of Edwards Air Force Base. You got to see it. We're going to play it here for you tonight, along with several other video clips. Okay? So before we do, remember, we're brought to you by you. Please consider going right here, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all our sponsors. One of them I would check out right away would be this one. Remember the tabletop exercise we talked about earlier this week? Some of the uniparty guys from George W. Bush administration and others were rehearsing some kind of Nipah virus that will kill like 280,000 Americans in one day. Oh, I get a little nervous when the uniparty starts doing tabletop exercises, like Event 201 right before COVID, right? So you want to make sure you have all your essential meds on hand. I have the blue wellness kit with the ivermectin, the moxicillin, all that. This is serious stuff, folks. It's not games. And the power grid hasn't gone down. We haven't had a collapse in just-in-time inventory. And I've already had to jump into the wellness kit a couple times due to pneumonia, COVID for the fourth time. So there's benefits to having this around. You don't have to run to some urgent care and sit and wait for a doctor and then get a prescription. Okay? I had the meds on hand. I'm like, I'm not shaking this. Can't get rid of this. I took my Z-Pack, got rid of it when I had pneumonia and COVID for the fourth time a couple weeks ago. Okay. So I've been using this already, and I have to keep restocking. But if we do have a disruption in inventory, how are you going to get critical meds like an antibiotic if you really need it? Something very simple that could be healed could become terminal if you don't have your meds. Keep your emergency meds around, okay? It's all there, worldviewhealthcare.com. We also, of course, have all kinds of other great things there. Your Bella Grace, your Numi, your Gatatana. It's all there. Check it out, worldviewstore.com. Of course, as always, our foundation, we need your support, worldviewfoundation.com, so we can keep pushing it out for free. And after tonight, we'll put it up online. We can watch it and share it with friends. By the way, we've got a new health channel. Have you gone to our health channel? The player right below our main player, all kinds of great interviews lined up with medical doctors, nutritionists, functional medicine, MDs. Amazing. And guess what? Coming in the next few days, we're launching our history channel. Lots of history programming that we've got in our archives for 35 years and the new stuff we're producing. And then we want to launch a Bible prophecy channel. Channel number 4. Pushing it all out for free. How do we do that? Well, you're the one that makes it possible. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewtube.com/sponsors, these 2 ways. So consider going to worldviewfoundation.com and make a contribution, would you? Worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Okay? Hey, don't forget that our fall conference is coming up. Worldviewstore.com is where you can go. Our fall conference is coming up with Gordon Chang, Dr. Andy Woods, Chris Martinson, the top pollster at Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, Hadia, former Muslim turned Christian, was in the intelligence arena, working at the government level in the State Department and others. Dr. Lana, Sidney Powell, Alex Newman. We only have seating for 350, so I hope you'll join. If you're a member of the Vault, you'll be able to live stream it. You can join the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. But I would urge you to get your tickets for the fall conference just outside of Memphis, about 30 minutes outside of Memphis. Very nice middle class community. Really nice. We had one of our friends from South Dakota was down here just a few weeks ago. She's the chairwoman of the RNC for South Dakota. And she was here with her husband, and we had a chance to visit. And they spent the day here and shopping in the area. And she told my wife, that is such a cute community. Collierville, Germantown, she thought it was really cute. And a lot of people say that. So yeah, Memphis has its problems. But we don't live in Memphis, and the conference isn't going to be in Memphis. It's in Collierville and Germantown. Both, by the way, rated the top 2 safest communities in Tennessee. So come join us here in the Mid-South for our Worldview Conference, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. You can get all the info, hotels, tickets, everything, at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. While you're there, make sure you got your freeze-dried food. Because, folks, the last thing you want to not have is food, right? Or medicine, or supplies, 100-hour candles. There's so much there. Check it out, worldviewstore.com. Join me now is Roger Stone. Roger, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you.
Okay, let's start with the Elon Musk Trump dust up before we go to the BBB and midterms and all that stuff. What do you make of this?
I mean, look, the country owes an enormous debt to Elon Musk when he bought Twitter and converted it to a free speech site. And while it's not perfect, it's very, very good. He put a target on his back, and there were 9 federal investigations that would have destroyed his companies and probably sent him to jail. That's called the deep state. That's weaponization. But after he bought the free speech site, he became a great danger to them. He wisely decided to support Donald Trump. I think he was helpful in his election. And he is not wrong about the fact that we need to cut federal spending. And he's not wrong, but he is wrong about the big, beautiful bill. which is a deeply flawed piece of legislation. And there are a few things in there that I really don't like that I hope the Senate strips out regarding artificial intelligence and a couple other issues. But it is the largest tax increase in our history, and it needs to be renewed. This happened in the first Trump term. Does away with the tax on tips, does away with the tax on Social Security. It also, and this is quite important, provides the funding for a Golden Dome missile.
Oh, yes, yes.
We used to call this SDI under Reagan. They made fun of us calling it Star Wars. Think how much the technology has advanced since then. So I strongly support the big, beautiful bill, recognizing it's not perfect. Where Elon is really wrong is that the place to cut spending is in a rescission bill. Trump administration has a $98.4 billion rescission bill going to the Congress that will essentially zero out USAID, which has become the slush fund of the far left. But I think there's more at play than just that. I mean, I understand that Elon was unhappy when the president reversed himself over the candidacy of a man named Jared Isaacman to be the head of NASA. He was evidently Elon's candidate, but in the background check, it turned out that he had given lavishly to Obama and Kamala and Joe Biden, a number of Democrat senators, and so on. So I think he was miffed about that. Also, the Trump administration decided not to use his Starlink for air traffic in the air traffic control program. He was unhappy about that. This stuff about Epstein is, of course, outrageous. In my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women, I made it very clear that Donald Trump never visited Epstein's island. There is one recorded, long public report of Trump being on Epstein's plane once. It flew from New York to Palm Beach. Marla Maples, to whom Trump was then married, was on the flight, as was his daughter Tiffany, as they were going to Palm Beach for the weekend. He was never on Epstein's island. He was never at his ranch in New Mexico. He was never at his apartment in Paris, like Steve Bannon, where Steve Bannon visited him there. Trump was never.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, really? Really?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It reported in the New York Post. I'm not sure what Bannon was doing associating with Jeffrey Epstein between the time Epstein was convicted of the sex crime in Florida and the time he was charged for the sex trafficking, ultimately federally. But they actually made a documentary together, which has never seen the light of day.
What was the documentary on?
I have no idea. They won't release it.
And if Steve wants to come on the broadcast to refute or discuss any of this, he's welcome. Just FYI, that's my policy. So there you go.
But I mean, the point here is, so Trump is in none of his homes, doesn't go to his home in New York, another place where Bannon visited Epstein. He goes to Epstein's home one time in Palm Beach, and the testimony of Virginia Giuffre, who was there, one of Epstein's victims, who they very recently told us committed suicide. I doubt that.
Oh, you do? You don't think she committed suicide?
No, I don't. I do not. She was a very stout, tough woman. I interviewed her for hours, and I read every word of her testimony for my book, The Clintons' War on Women. The longest chapter in the book, I expose Jeffrey Epstein, and his ties to the Clintons. Trump cuts Epstein off prior to Epstein being exposed and charged in Florida for a sex crime. The sheriff, the Palm Beach County police chief, gives the local prosecutor an open shut case of child sex trafficking of 33 children and statutory rape of 33 children. And the prosecutor knocks that down to a one charge of solicitation, which would be like Logan walking into a bar and soliciting a prostitute. Not that he would ever do that. So the police chief knows that something's wrong. Epstein has hired Alan Dershowitz. He's hired Gerald Lefcourt. He's hired Roy Black. He's hired all these he hired the former special counsel. In any event, Epstein, the police chief goes to the federal prosecutors in Miami, Alex Acosta, and he says to Acosta, something's not right here. Acosta does his own investigation, trying to determine whether the county prosecutor was bribed or threatened. And he instead rubber stamps the state's charge, and he seals the whole thing so no one will ever know. Palm Beach Post valiantly went to court, gets the record sealed. That's how we know everything we know about Epstein today. So it is incredible. Trump cuts him off prior to that.
When you say cuts him off, he kicks him out of Mar-a-Lago, right?
Yes, because he makes an inappropriate advance to an underage girl who's working in the spa, and that's it. Trump bars him. He's then charged and convicted. Hillary and Bill take millions from him after his conviction on state sex charges. Bill is on the Lolita Express 23 times. I believe he's on the island 17 times. I've read testimony from dozens of women who were at several parties with Bill Clinton on Orgy Island. The Tara Maher Foundation, which is headed by Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's pimp, is completely funded by the Clinton Foundation. So Epstein gives the money to the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation gives this money to a foundation that recruits young women to study marine biology, when in fact what it really is a grooming pool for Epstein's future victims.
Well, and that's been proven in court?
These are all public records. So the difference here, this idea that Trump is in the Epstein file, is I think Elon is irresponsible to say it. What I think is even more disturbing is his tweet in which he says Trump should be impeached and J.D. Vance should be president. Now, first of all, I'm not sure how J.D. Vance feels about that, but Elon does tip us off as to where he is in that race, along with a lot of the other Silicon Valley and crypto people are all on board for J.D. Vance for president.
Mm-hmm. How concerned are you of Peter Thiel and this Palantir, and they're working with the IRS and CIA, according to reports?
I find it very, 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 very disturbing. I mean, look, we saw the way they perverted the Patriot Act.
Yes.
They said, let us spy on you. Let us spy. We're only going to use it on Islamic terrorists. And they turned it around and spied on American citizens, including candidate Donald Trump, which is a perfect example of their abuse of it. Now we have Real ID. This was passed in the wake of 9/11. Mm-hmm. It's been held up in the courts because 26 states correctly say it's unconstitutional. But as of May 7th, people don't know this. When you try to get on an airplane with your driver's license, that will be insufficient. If you don't have a passport, you are what we call SOL, and you have to have this little sticker from Real ID, and to get that sticker, you have to give them a bunch of your information. So this is biometric data collection on the American people. They sell it by saying, "Oh, this will stop people who aren't eligible to vote from voting, or this will stop people who are not eligible to get Social Security from getting it," which sounds great, but they're collecting this data. Ultimately, they will spy on you. They will track you, and I suspect if we don't hold on to the White House, they'll someday give us a social credit score.
Well, yeah. So do you think President Trump is aware of Palantir and how dangerous it is, and that you've got isn't it one of their co-founders, what's his name, the Katz, Logan, that's overseas saying we help to defeat the far right in Europe?
Yes, I saw that. I found it very disturbing. I don't know what the president knows about this. I've not spoken to him.
A lot of the MAGA people are Karp, last name Karp. Thank you, Logan. I know a lot of the MAGA people online are very disturbed about this.
No, I think they should be. Look, there's some AI stuff in the big the big beautiful bill that's similarly dangerous. Some restriction on our ability to restrict AI.
Yeah, like
States,
10 years. States can't touch AI for 10 years.
So, I mean, that's one of the things I asked about. This Palantir thing is deeply troubling. I need to learn more about it. I have been focused on Real ID. Kristi Noem has a $200 million budget to push Real ID on television. You can see the ads. It's going to make us safer. Well, I don't think so. I think it's going to be used to track us. Now, she and her erstwhile political strategist, Corey Lewandowski, think this $200 million ad buy is their opening bid for her presidential campaign.
Because my guess is she's going to be starring in the commercials, right?
She is. You can see them. They're already up. But Barbie is not going to get elected president. There's no way. No way. The first woman president will be Tulsi Gabbard, who's doing a tremendous job. Last week, she fired another 100 deep staters from the national security apparatus. John Brennan went out of his mind, and she referred a number of them to the Justice Department for illegal leaking. Wow. She's tough as nails, and she's doing a great job. She's been very aggressive in following up on the president's order regarding the Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and MLK assassination records. She's been very aggressive with the agencies that seem to be holding stuff back. She's doing a great job.
What do you say of people saying, like, wasn't it Steve Bannon that said that the government should take SpaceX? Did he say that, Logan?
No, it's worse than that. So Steve Bannon, desperate for clicks, says that Elon Musk, a U.S. citizen, should be deported.
Yes.
Deport the U.S. citizen. And he says the government should seize his company. Steve, that's called communism. That's not what we do. That's what Castro does. Those are outrageous comments. You can do. I have a lot of respect for Elon. I don't agree with him. I'm sorry that he said these things about Trump. I stand with the president. I'm completely loyal to him. But I told you his motives. I think they're not just simply the spending issue. I think he is peeved about this personnel issue regarding Jared Isaacman. Isaacman's appointment was really killed, it is reported, by Sergio Gore, who runs the Office of Presidential Personnel. Sergio Gore came from Rand Paul's shop. He's a libertarian conservative. He's been very effective of keeping rhinos and other leftists out of the administration. He worked very hard to get the Librarian of Congress, who's a hardcore leftist, fired. I think he made the president aware of Isaacman's big Democrat contributions. I think Elon may be sore about it. Also breaking here is Kash Patel goes on with Joe Rogan.
Wow, it's almost like you're reading my mind because we haven't rehearsed this. We haven't rehearsed this show, and that was where I was going next was Kash Patel.
Andy says they can't find any existing video of Epstein, of any of Epstein's victims or anything criminal or salacious happening with Epstein, which means the material was destroyed. It is undeniable because we can see with our own eyes the police leaving his New York apartment and his Palm Beach home with boxes of DVDs and hard drives. So the FBI had this material. This is very simple. The deep state covers their own ass. Remember, Acosta gave this guy a pass when he was later appointed the Secretary of Labor, and he was preparing for his confirmation hearings, and they asked the U.S. attorney seeking to be the labor secretary, what are you going to say if they ask you about why you gave Epstein a pass? And he said, well, I'm just going to tell the truth. That the CIA came to me and told him he was ours and I was to seal the case.
Wow.
There it is.
What do you make about the talk of there being broken bones in Epstein's neck, that he could have never hung himself and broke these very tough bones in the neck?
Look, I have a great deal of confidence in Kash Patel. However, Michael Baden, who's the former New York City medical commissioner, probably the most respected pathologist in the country, examined Epstein's body, and he said these three different bone breaks are completely inconsistent with hanging himself. He says he has seen 100, actually said 1,000. He says, I've seen 1,000 hanging cases. He was the New York medical examiner for 37 years, I believe.
Right.
And I've never seen this is inconsistent. Now you have the coincidence of the video cameras being out of commission. At the same time, two guards just conveniently fell asleep.
Yeah.
And they remove Epstein's cellmate, so he's alone. And they take him off of suicide watch the day before they claim he committed suicide. So I think, and he hired a new lawyer, David Schoen, who's actually doing my radio show tonight.
Wow.
And he, 9 days before his death, he retained Schoen, and Schoen specifically asks him, "Do you have any information that would be derogatory towards President Trump?" And he said, "No, I don't." So he certainly had plenty of information on Bill and Hillary because they both visited the island.
Let me switch gears. I only got about 10 minutes. You got a hard out for another interview. So quick questions here. Tariffs, are they going to work? Is President Trump going to be able to bring taxes if you make 250 and under, no federal income tax? Is he going to be able to do that?
Yes, I think so. Look, I think that the tariff war is actually going relatively well, despite what the media tries to tell you. And also, people are distracted by the federal courts trying to stop the president from having the authority to negotiate tariff deals, something they never did under any other president. Just like the courts tried to say the president didn't have the authority to deport dangerous, illegal gangbangers and criminals, which of course he does. So this, I think, makes everything they're doing more difficult. But Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, is a very, very able guy. He's a very good communicator. He's a very shrewd negotiator. He's a libertarian. He thinks outside the box. He is leading these negotiations in most cases. I think it is going to work, but it's only one leg of a three-legged stool. We must have the tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill. Elon's not wrong. We need a lot more spending cuts. The House Republicans are derelict. I agree. But we still need the continuation of the biggest tax cut in history. Otherwise, we get a 68% increase in our federal income taxes, every single person. So it is, as I said, the Gold Dome funding is in there. So I'm for the big, beautiful bill. It's not perfect, but I wonder if that's what Elon is really upset about. Or maybe it is a personnel matter regarding Jared Isaacman, or maybe some disappointment that there was no electric vehicle tax credit in the big, beautiful bill. You get a tax credit if you buy a car or truck made in the United States. Another great aspect of the bill. So, I hope.
So the three-legged stools: tariffs, tax cuts, and the third one?
Right, cutting regulations.
Cutting regulations. Okay. Let me ask.
And of course, spending. Regulations and spending. We have to cut spending to get the deficit under control. We can do so. Our revenues from the tax cuts, our revenues are going to take off. This is one of the great fallacies of the left that they push.
Yeah, Reagan proved that. Reagan proved that, didn't he?
Well, remember, Robert Reich, who was the labor.
Yes.
I've had it up to here with this guy. I went to high school with him. He was an arrogant leftist. He was wrong then, as he is today. He insists that the tax cuts cause the deficit. The truth is, every time we have cut federal income taxes across the board, under Donald Trump, under Ronald Reagan, under John F. Kennedy, you had a sharp spike in federal revenues from more economic opportunity, economic activity.
Yep.
So our deficits are caused by spending too much, not taxing people too little. And Elon uncovered shocking amounts of waste, fraud, and corruption, not millions, not trillions, but billions. And he rightfully wants to see that fat cut out. Now, will you get all of it? No, but you've got to get a lot of it. And it's a tough fight. We only control the House by 3 votes, essentially. And there are many Republicans there who have no cojones, as we say.
Yes. So let me ask you two other things I've got to get in here. And that is, number one, midterms. But before we go to that, number two, is there any chance, as some are talking about in articles and social media or whatever, that Donald Trump as President Trump would ever default on our debt. Basically say, sorry, and just clear the books and start over. Is there any chance of that?
That is something I can't. I haven't followed that issue, and I cannot respond to that particular question. What was your first question?
Midterm elections. How are Republicans going to do?
Look, in American politics, a week is a lifetime. Anybody who tells you what's going to happen in the midterms doesn't know anything about politics. The situation we don't know what the economy is like at that time. We don't know what gas prices are at that time, food prices. Are we at war? Are we at peace? That would be an interesting question. We could very well be in the middle of a world war. So it's just way too early to handicap the election. Other than to say a lot will hinge on the economy at the time. If the economy is booming, that will make things much easier.
And don't we need to get rid of Powell? Don't we need Powell to go ahead and resign?
Now you're reading my mind. If the Federal Reserve Chairman, who cut in the interest rates the last time the inflation rate is exactly where it is right now, would cut interest rates so we can have the Trump boom. He is purposely trying to spike the economy. He's not an economist. First of all, he's a lawyer, and he accuses Trump, who's been pounding the desk for a rate cut so people can buy homes.
I saw a study today where RV sales are just drying up because people can't justify buying a RV or a little camper at these interest rates. So again, it's hurting discretionary purchasing as well as essential.
It's really, really problematic.
Can President Trump fire him?
He cannot. He does not have the authority to fire the Federal Reserve. Now, his term is up in the middle of next year, and Trump gets to appoint the chair, and he'll appoint a far friendlier chair. But by then, the damage could very well be baked in. What we really need to do is we need to repeal the Federal Reserve Act.
Yes.
Something Ron Paul advocated and sponsored in the House decades ago. This is a foreign bank. We don't need them to set interest rates.
100%. 100% agree.
And it's completely political. They pretend they're not political, but they're entirely political.
And then finally, I know it's a ways off, 2028. Who do you see as, you've already mentioned Tulsi Gabbard. Other than that, who do you see as strong contenders for running for president?
Well, I think it was very telling when President Trump was asked in that Meet the Press interview, is J.D. Vance going to follow you? And he said, well, maybe. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he certainly have a leg up, but, Marco Rubio may also run. And I think there'll be 16 others, his words. You've identified Tulsi Gabbard as another I think is likely to run. Kristi Noem will probably run.
How about Don Jr.? He's talking about it.
He's made clear that he is not running. I don't think he's interested in running. Kristi Noem will be running for comic relief. But this is how Eisenhower treated Nixon. So Trump is not going to turn the spotlight over to the new nominee until the latest possible time. Eisenhower delayed his endorsement of Nixon. Reagan delayed his endorsement of Bush for the same reason. You're passing the torch, and you don't want to pass it until the end of your term. So I don't really see that working, to be honest with you.
Okay, where can people watch the Stone Zone? Now, you were with us for a long time, but you everything's fine between you and us and our network. In fact, you may come back someday, but you got a great opportunity. You got a great opportunity.
No, look, I'm at WABC Radio. You can listen to me every weekday at 8 p.m. anywhere in the world by just going to WABCRadio.com. My show's called The Stone Zone. On Sundays, I'm on 2 hours from 3 to 5. Once again, WABCRadio.com. We talk politics, news, history, style, food. Last week I did my mother's eggplant parmesan recipe. It was a great show. Anyway, tune in. I think you'll like it.
I think you will too. And then stonezone.com, stonezone.com. Our buddy Roger Stone. It's always great to interview you, and we appreciate your being with us. Say hello to Mrs. Stone, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Brandon. God bless you.
You too, my friend. Roger Stone checking in, stonezone.com. Join me now is Leo Holman of leoholman.com. Let's talk World War III, where we're at. Let's talk robots taking everybody's job. Let's talk decreasing the population worldwide, because why do you need all these people? They're costing a lot of money with Social Security benefits, Medicaid, Medicare, all the way around. They're costing us money. Maybe we just need to depopulate the eugenics program. That's been pretty popular with the globalist. Is that what this is about? Remember the Deagle report? Talks about like a 70%, 68% decrease in American population by 2025. I don't know, maybe they're off a year or two. Then, of course, we have a tabletop exercise that was just run not too long ago, a year ago, that we've all found out about, a lot of us this week. That's got 280,000 Americans dying in one day. And we got several other things going on that make you wonder what is happening now. And let's talk about driverless semi-trucks. And then Pearl Harbor 2.0. A brigadier general in charge of Edwards Air Force Base, he's warning about it. His name is General Mike Minahan. No, his name is General Doug Wickert. General Doug Wickert. I talked about it in the Worldview Report tonight. And I went and looked for the presentation. Guess what? I found it. It's really startling. This guy's warning about what I was warning about back in 2020. I think I have the, you go to Worldview Tube. I think I can prove it at Worldview Tube. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. Let's see here. There it is, Worldview Tube. Look at that. March 31st, 2020. March 31st, 2020, I did a TV show called Pearl Harbor 2.0. Are China and Russia preparing for war with the United States? But I can actually go back further than that. 2018, my documentary Sabotage. 2018, Sabotage, whole segment on the Club K cargo launching systems. Looks like a freight car in the back of a semi-truck or a railroad truck car. But up pops the lid and silos for launching missiles, which could be used to strike America on our. Maybe they're already here. Maybe they're already smuggled in. Maybe they're off our coast. Maybe they come out on cargo ships. Maybe they're already here, as I said. I've talked to some guys in the intelligence arena who say, well, those could already be here. We just don't know it. Really no way to track them. And now we have a general in charge of Air Force, the Edwards Air Force Base, the commander, saying to the community leaders, we better be aware. Because if China goes after Taiwan, the first thing they're going to do is take down America's power grid. I'm going to play for you his speech tonight. It's 25 minutes. But it's worth seeing the whole 25 minutes, folks. It's worth it. This guy's got a good presentation with good PowerPoint. Joining me now is Leo Homeland. Leo, welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, Brandon. Good to be with you.
You too, my friend. Leo, of course, is our senior producer for the Worldview Report. And in that Worldview Report tonight, we had that story about the commander of Edwards Air Force Base, General Doug Wickert. What do you make of this? And by the way, did you know it's a 25-minute speech he gave?
I knew he gave a big speech. Yeah, I have not seen or read the entire speech.
Well,
Brandon.
We're going to play it tonight. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, the little bit I read about it, it sounded fascinating enough to include in your Worldview Report for sure. Mm-hmm. But right now, at this point, I've got a very cursory view of it. From what I understand, Brandon, a lot of it is right in line with what we've been talking about for the last several years. Yep,
100%. And he actually goes on to talk about a guy that was back in 1924 that predicted Pearl Harbor. He was off by like 18 minutes. He actually predicted the time of day and everything. Did you know that? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
He talks about that history. I'm going to share it tonight with you guys. There he is right there. That's the gentleman he's talking about in 1924. He was only off by like 18 minutes or something.
You know what? I bet you he was called a conspiracy theorist.
He was actually court-martialed. And then after he died, they finally gave him an award.
See, this is the thanks we get for being ahead of the curve. We get
he was so ahead of the curve that he was very, very, very aggressive on the idea of shooting more and more planes off of, take planes going off of aircraft carriers. I mean, he had all kinds of very advanced ideas. Wow. Yeah, he had all kinds of ideas. But yeah, he got really picked on badly. But this general mentions him tonight. And he even got real close. In fact, it's so fascinating. Let me just play a little bit of it. We'll play the rest of it tonight. Let me just play a little tidbit here for you. Listen to this, Leo. This will be right up your alley. Here we go.
Next slide. And so it's worthwhile going back, as we're talking culminating events, just to go back and take a look at a historical culminating event, since we're taking a peek at history. Everybody probably recognizes Pearl Harbor. This is 18 months before Pearl Harbor. Interesting enough, 18 years prior to that, go ahead and build twice for me. So that's Brigadier General William Billy Mitchell, a staunch early advocate of air power. In 1924, he wrote a report, and you can read what he wrote there. 18 years before Pearl Harbor happened, he predicted Pearl Harbor. He was off by a little bit. He was off by 18 minutes. The actual attack, it was on a Sunday morning. He says the attack's going to happen on a Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. The first bombs actually dropped and the torpedoes were dropped at 7:48 a.m. on a Sunday morning. He actually got closer with Clark Field in the Philippines, different time zone. He said 10:40, it was actually 10:30. And he did it just based on geography and math. You know, how long do airplanes fly? They want to take off of the carriers, launch from carriers at sunrise. They need to fly. He predicted the targets. We kind of ignored him. He was a bit of a zealot. He was an air power zealot. He was actually court-martialed by the Army. He was ultimately given, it was misreported once as the Congressional Medal of Honor. It wasn't the Medal of Honor, but he did receive very high honors posthumously for kind of his air power advocacy. But we didn't listen to him. Go ahead and get into the next slide. And of course, that's what happened on that Sunday morning in 1942, December 7th, 1942, that day that will live in infamy. And we didn't listen. 18 years prior, he told us, with only 18 minutes of error. If Admiral Hirohito...
Let me just stop right there. Now, many of you may recognize Mitchell. He's the one that I think they named the Mitchell Airport in Milwaukee after this guy. They named it the airport after him. And he's buried in Milwaukee. I just looked it up real quick. I read about him like a year ago. I don't know how I stumbled on him. But he was a colonel and then brigadier general temporarily. I don't know if they took it away from him after they went after him. But he was very aggressive in coming up with the idea of floating airports, basically, aircraft carriers. And he called some of the guys, he called some of the people in the military basically traitorous and incompetent because they wouldn't pay attention to what he was saying. And so he got court-martialed for it. On September 5th, 1925, Mitchell issued the statement that would lead to his court-martial, accusing senior leaders in the Army and Navy of incompetence and, quote, almost treasonable administration of the national defense, end quote. The statement to the press issued from his office in San Antonio came 2 days after the Navy's first helium-filled rigid airspace Shenandoah crashed in a storm, killing 14 of the crew, and the loss of 3 seaplanes on a flight from the West Coast to Hawaii. Mitchell issued a statement accusing senior leaders in the Army and Navy of incompetence and almost treasonable administration of the national defense. In October 25, a charge with 8 specifications was proffered against Mitchell on the direct order of President Calvin Coolidge, accusing him of violation of the 96 Article of War, an ambiguous article that Mitchell's chief counsel, Congressman Frank Reed, declared to be unconstitutional in violation of free speech. His court-martial began in early November and lasted for 7 weeks. But he was very big on the idea of planes being able to take off of ships. And I guess he was just too advanced.
People don't like those deep thinkers who are ahead of the curve. Yeah. They tend to get awarded, as he said, posthumously. Thank you very much. After you're dead, we'll recognize what you did for us. But they're very unpopular at the time, right, Brandon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't we know? Let's see here. I was trying to figure out read a little bit about his.
They operate outside the Overton window, right? I mean,
yes, they do.
They talk about things that are not acceptable at the time that they're talking about it. We see that right now really, really strongly. Let's see. Fox News gets a huge audience because they stay tightly within the confines of that Overton window.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They keep it very simple and dumbed down so everybody can understand, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, people ought to read about him, but he predicted Pearl Harbor. He was just off by like 18 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to play the rest of this because this commander is telling the local community that when China decides to go after Taiwan, which about 90% of our chips come out of there, chips for running critical infrastructure, he said the first thing we're going to do is turn the lights out in America. He goes on to talk about how, remember in, 2003, 2004, the power went out in on the East Coast when some limbs hit power lines in Ohio. Yeah. He says there's only out for a few hours, 100 people died. What do you think is going to happen when it's out for several days, weeks, or months? Right. He goes on to talk about China's in our power grid. They're in our power grid. I mean, he's saying all this stuff we've been saying for years. Get ready, get your freeze-dried food, get your lights, get your batteries, get your 100-hour candles, get your medical kits at worldviewstore.com, folks. And most of you still don't have enough. I got like 2.5, 3 year supply because I want to be able to barter with some of it. Because you're not getting cash out of the bank and writing checks. So you better have something to barter with for a while. Here's a commander saying it.
Yeah, simple things that we take for granted right now will be nowhere to be found. Lighters, batteries, candles, containers of things, that to store gasoline, a 5-gallon gasoline container. Think of the value that will have if power is out for 3 weeks or 3 months or more.
Yes.
The gas stations will all have long lines and be running out of fuel within days. I mean, people who have things to store and things to store them in will be the ones who are in possession of value.
Yep, 100%. So anyway, we're going to play what this guy is saying. But with all that being said, where do you think we are now that we've had these retaliations by Russia with more coming? With more coming, I think. I don't think they've seen it all. But where do you think where we're going? This is just...
I think we'll find another round tonight. I would be surprised if there's not another round of bombing tonight. And it's just the beginning, Brandon. I think by the end of it, Kiev is going to be pretty much decimated. I would not be surprised to see him target. He seems to be targeting just mostly military installations and storage warehouses, that hold ammunition and stuff like this. But there's going to be some missiles that go off target and hit apartment buildings or hospitals or whatever. And the West is going to make a great big deal out of that, Brandon, and make it sound like, the Russians are targeting schools and hospitals now. This is war. This is the way it happens. They're very quiet about Ukrainian targeted terrorist attacks that are not accidental, okay? Not a matter of some ordnance going off course and hitting something, but they're actually targeting bridges and railways with trains full of people on them inside Russia. There's not been a peep from the Western press about this, but for the last several weeks, the Ukrainians have been engaging in terror military attacks on civilian rail lines, bridges with cars of civilians going over them. They killed a general on the way out of his apartment a few weeks back by blowing up a postal package remotely. Could you imagine if Russia did that to a NATO general?
Yes.
He walks out of his apartment in Washington, Brandon, and gets a package, and suddenly it blows up in his face. Yep. Imagine the uproar the media would be in, calling the Russians terrorists, calling them, absolutely horrible, vicious, aggressive people, exercising naked aggression, as they like to say, and terrorism, but nothing of the sort when it's Ukraine doing this. So their comeuppance is about to happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see more bombing tonight and maybe more the night after that.
Yeah. There's some of the images right there that we saw from the other night. Yeah, last night.
Yep.
But I think you're right. It's going to ratchet it up. No doubt about it. All right, let's move on to talk about trucks, I should say. Here's something you sent me today, Leo. This is fascinating.
45 in Palmer, Texas, just south of Dallas. We are on the lookout for a new invention that could potentially upend one of the largest industries in America. That invention, a driverless truck.
Driverless semi-trucks are now operating in Texas.
No one behind the wheel of a huge semi-truck.
Aurora launched service this
my
week.
heart is just palpitating thinking about this.
Aurora Innovation and several of their competitors have been using I-45 as a testing ground to prove a single point. They don't need drivers.
Well, it's going to be a catastrophe.
We are on the verge of a new era in trucking.
I mean, this is truly transformational technology.
And it's coming for your job, too.
More jobs are lost through automation than they are through trade deals.
A robot comes into a factory, workers go away.
Robots could soon put together your next grocery order.
Many office jobs even.
The job you have today ain't going to be here in 10 or 15 years.
The question would be to the company, why do you need everything automated?
So, we came to Texas to witness the revolution for ourselves.
Every load that one of these driverless trucks take is a load that's being taken away from a driver.
We spent time with truck drivers talking about what this means for them.
I kind of am one of the last of the cowboys. We are truly a dying breed of people.
And find out how ready our roads and our society are for this change.
Have we done a good job of addressing the policy questions that need to be answered in order to successfully develop this to maximize the benefits of it? I think absolutely not.
This tech is coming. I mean, it's here now. But is there a way to make it work for us instead of against us?
It's all happening right here. Buckle up. We're heading out. So right now we're just parked right across the first transfer hub from Aurora Innovation. This is where they're going to be launching the driverless trucks out of.
Aurora Innovation was started in 2017 by 3 Silicon Valley heavyweights. Chris Urmson, who previously led Google's self-driving car project that spun off into Waymo. Sterling Anderson, who led the development of the Tesla Autopilot and Model X. And Drew Bagnell, who worked on autonomous innovation at Uber. Aurora does not actually make trucks. They make what's called the Aurora Driver. It's a combination of software, like AI, machine learning, and training simulations, and hardware, like radar, LiDAR, and cameras, that work together to create and inform the Aurora Driver.
The Aurora Driver is going to be essential to our customers. It's going to allow them to build more revenue while having lower costs.
And they are not alone. Companies like Wabi, Plus AI, and Kodiak are all in the race to create driverless trucks. But Aurora is the big one, and they said they'd be ready to launch by the end of April 2025.
All right, and there she goes. Got drivers in it, which is a little bit unfortunate for us, but it's good for anybody that still needs a job. And we're going to be following it all the way down to Houston. So, the truck that we're following right now, even though there's a safety driver and a technician in it, the safety driver is basically just holding their hands right next to the wheel in case there's any erratic motions. It's still driving itself.
Aurora and other companies have been testing on I-45 in Texas like this for years.
Texas is ground zero for it because they have a really permissive regulatory environment here. And this specific stretch of road is one of the densest freight corridors in America. And there's a lot of money to be made here.
And obviously, that money has to come from somewhere.
Major changes to these industries will have major impact on
There'll
jobs.
be a massive depletion of truck driving opportunities.
Driving for a living is the single most common job for high school educated men in this country.
So is Aurora going to have a driver in the truck of an autonomous vehicle? No, they're not. So they are going to take jobs.
Robert and Chris are with the Teamsters Local 988, representing truckers in Texas.
All right, let's stop there. So, we've already had these globalists talk about, hey, we just don't need this many people on the planet. Or we're going to have to go to keeping them happy with drugs and video games. Or, maybe we need a good World War III or a good plandemic. The Deagle report talks about the population in the U.S. going down by 68% by 2025? Maybe they're off a few years. But I also have videos of guys, economists, talking about how America is really on the verge of bankruptcy, that it's quite shocking that we've been able to maintain it this long with the massive debt to GDP. I want to play a video for you, but first comment on what we just saw, that you're the one that sent me that.
Yeah, well, I found it because I've been researching this very topic, Brandon. I just published an article yesterday, as you know, about transhumanism and how machines are becoming more like humans and humans are becoming more like machines. And I addressed in that article more the mental, emotional impact of this trend. My next article is going to be more about the socioeconomic impact. And that's what I think is even more scary in some regards, because they're talking about eliminating 33% of all jobs. You heard it in that report. And I personally think that that is a lowball figure. I think it's going to be more like 50 to 70% when it comes to its full, when AI and robotics. And that's what this is all about. You notice they talked about the combination of software and hardware to power these driverless vehicles. Well, all that is, the software is AI and the hardware is robotics. The actual vehicle is a robot, and the software that powers it and is the machine learning AI. And so you combine those two forces, and it's going to impact more than just trucking, right? I mean, that's just one small component of what we're looking at in the next couple of years. We are on the precipice of it right now. I mean, it is not something it's in the future. It already exists. It's just a matter of rolling it out. And I personally think that they know the socioeconomic impact. It's going to cause social upheaval when 33 to 50% or more of the people realize that they're no longer needed, or they're no longer going to be needed in the next year or two. Once people figure this out, Brandon, we're talking about social upheaval, civil strife, rioting in the streets. They've got to have a solution for this before they can fully roll it out and actually start replacing everyone. And that's why I think we see the obsession right now with everything that involves death, everything from abortion to the drive towards World War III and thermonuclear war with Russia. The LGBTQ obsession. These people do not reproduce. The vaccines and the pandemics, all of it equals elimination of humanity 1.0, so they can get busy rolling out humanity 2.0, which will be the 30 to 50% of us that are still left. And then what's coming after that, Brandon, after they eliminate most of us, they're going to start pushing human augmentation, where you will get a Neuralink brain chip or something similar embedded in you, so that you can now compete with these robots. These AI-powered robots are going to be able to do things much faster and more efficiently than the average human being. So if you want one of the few jobs that is going to be left after everything's been replaced by AI and robotics, you will be told that you need to accept some sort of human augmentation, more than likely having to do with a brain chip, so that you can now analyze and compute things way faster than you normally would be able to, because you have your brain connected online to all of these algorithms and, superhuman computers that can do things at the speed of light.
Wow. So I think you're right. I think a lot of this comes down to nations going bankrupt, right? This is what the economist Armstrong has told us, right? What's his first name? I can't remember his first name.
Martin
Armstrong. That Europe's in really big trouble. This is one reason why they got to go to war. Yes. We know that Keynesian economics, and Europe is dominated by Keynesian economics, or the Fabian socialist. The Labour Party was founded and launched by the Fabians. The Labour Party was launched by the Fabian socialist. And Fabian socialist, people that follow John Maynard Keynes or Fabian socialism, believe that when there is a slowdown in spending, the government becomes the primary spender. So you get government spending up with justification, like with war. But you may have other reasons to go to war: to enrich the bankers who finance it, to enrich the military-industrial complex, to depopulate. There's a lot of to destroy things, to limit the growth of families, to eliminate people. So you have population control. A lot. I think you and I have said before, kind of sarcastically, but true, war checks all the boxes. War checks all the boxes. So if you're going down economically, let's distract everybody, right? Let's go to war. This is going on in America. Here is an economist, whether people agree or disagree with him. Here's a gentleman I found his analysis interesting. Is America going bankrupt? Listen to what this guy has to say.
America's going bankrupt. And if they don't stop America going bankrupt, we all have a massive problem. So America today has explicit debt of $36 trillion. That's a very, very big number. There has never been a country that has had $36 trillion of debt. Now, that is somewhere in the region of 120 to 125% of debt to GDP. Now, in the mid-90s, it was Stanford and Harvard professors Reinhardt and Rogoff put together this study called This Time is Different. It's a massive book. It's about 800 pages. They studied a lot of sovereign debt crises through the ages, and they worked out that 90% debt to GDP was about the maximum that could be sustained by an economy before it ultimately ended up in a financial crisis.
There you go. And we're beyond that.
This is so interesting because I just read an article a couple days ago by I don't think it was Martin Armstrong, but it was somebody like him, an economist, money guru, who was saying, when you hear the politicians start talking about defaulting on sovereign debt, get ready because it's coming. And what did we hear just today? If you go on Twitter, I believe it was Twitter, you will see Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how the U.S. has $36 trillion in debt, but don't worry about that, Brandon, because we have $200 trillion in natural resource assets sitting under the earth here in the United States of America.
And you and I have been talking about that. I go back to 2010. My radio shows in 2010 saying the politicians will try to back the dollar with land and assets, hard assets.
Be a digital. It'll be a digital currency, which they will say, don't worry about this dollar. It's now worthless because with this 36 trillion, we need to shift you over to this new currency, which is digital, some stable coin or freedom coin or whatever you want to call it. And it's backed by this 200 trillion in sovereign wealth. Okay. Yes. So you won't lose anything if you just switch over to this digital programmable currency. That's based on blockchain and tracking everything, your every move.
Now, I asked Roger Stone about it. He didn't know anything, but I asked him, do you think there's any chance that President Trump would just default on the debt and say, sorry, you know? Didn't he use bankruptcy rules when it came to casinos or businesses or something like that? I mean, why wouldn't he just do that as president? Say, I'm sorry, we're just defaulting and starting over.
Right. He'll say, I'm not responsible for this debt, or at least not 90% of it. You know, all the other presidents ran up this debt. This isn't a Trump debt. This is a Biden debt, an Obama debt, a Clinton debt, a Bush debt. We need to get rid of it, walk away from it, and start this new thing. This new Trump thing is going to be the magic bullet that gets us out of this crisis.
Which is why you need to get away from the Fed now, a central bank digital currency, and go to this other system. Look, we talked about it earlier this week. I don't know if you were on the program, but I think it was Patrick Wood I was talking to. I said, look, this is a battle of systems. We've got to stop thinking about this as politics and public policy and economics, and think about it as a battle of systems.
That was your program about Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is a system. It's a battle of systems. Are we going to have a system that's based on the Federal Reserve and a progressive income tax and a system of, globalism? Is it going to be a system of technocracy where we do away with politicians? We don't need them. We have artificial intelligence to be the judges. We have artificial intelligence to be the members of the legislature to write the laws. We go to a whole new system that's separated from the Federal Reserve, from a progressive income tax, to a whole new system. President Trump's calling it a golden era, right? So at the end of the day, isn't this a group? You can have the globalists saying, well, who's going to control the New World Order? Well, it's going to be Americans, right? It's going to be George H. Bush, right? George H. Bush pushing the New World Order. Was that going to be America leading the New World Order? Or was it going to be more Bill Clinton, who comes out of the school, the Cecil Rhodes School, Rhodes Scholarship. And Cecil Rhodes believed in a world government, but it would be Eurocentric. So is it going to be a world government dominated by America or a world government dominated by Europe? See, people are fighting, but maybe the whole thing is going to be scrap that. Let's go with a new system that sure could give us a Eurocentric world government, but instead of being dominated by politicians, it'll be a system of AI. What do you think? And a whole new economic system that's, again, not as tied to the central banks. Maybe somehow the central banks wiggle their way in. I don't know. But it seems to me there is at least when it comes to Trump, a desire to do away with the Federal Reserve, the central banks, and put in a whole new system.
I think AI changes everything, Brandon. So, everything's going to be on the table, including scrapping the Federal Reserve. And, how will that happen? You just offer more money over here than is over there. That's all you need to do with the new system is to make the elites, to entice the elites into supporting it. And if you get the elites, you get the media, you get the politicians, you get the whole gamut, right?
Yep.
All you have to do is put in the right incentives to entice them over. And, the rest of us will just follow like sheep. That's the way it works.
Look at this one. Texas private schools use new AI tutor, rocket student test scores to top 2% in the country. Well, I'm not shocked by that, to be honest.
That's why I said, Brandon, that video, while interesting, was about the truckers. That is such a small slice of the overall pie. I started thinking about all the people who will be replaced. I mean, this is low-hanging fruit. I'm sure there's a whole lot that I haven't even thought of. But just the low-hanging fruit is cab drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, teachers and teachers' assistants, lawyers and legal assistants, doctors, nurses and medical staff, cops and court staff, accountants, journalists, dock workers, fast food workers, grocery workers, soldiers and sailors. They'll have robots to fight the wars for them.
And drones.
So they're already doing it, right? And that was like the last thing, the last bastion of, what people did when economic times were collapsing and they couldn't get a job in the private sector. What did they do? The average Joe Schmo goes and signs up for the military. They won't even want you once AI and robotics are fully developed. So that's why they have to eliminate a large segment of humanity, Brandon. And that's also why Klaus Schwab 3 years ago said at the World Economic Forum Summit, we have to, and he's talking to his fellow globalist elites, he said, we have to prepare for an angrier world. Of course they knew we were going to be angry because they're going to throw us all out of our jobs. Not just our jobs, but our sense of self-worth and self-satisfaction. It's all tied up in this drive to AI. And that's why Yuval Harari said, the only thing worse for the human psyche than feeling oppressed is feeling needless and irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And that is what AI is going to do. It's going to be even worse than slavery, Brandon, because slavery and working around the clock for a corporate employer, while not very fun, and you feel oppressed and taken advantage of, at least you still have somewhat of a sense of the value of your work and your self-worth as a human being. But if you're now told that even that is taken away, and you're going to be replaced by AI, you now are not just oppressed, Brandon. You are irrelevant. You are useless. You are a useless eater at that point.
And I'm just thinking about this right now.
Go ahead.
You know why? They're preparing for that. One sign that they're preparing for a lot of people to be depressed, to have no purpose in life, to want to basically end their life. One strong sign that the globalists, the elitists, the scientists, the so-called medical community are preparing for that?
Euthanasia.
Because they're passing laws left and right all over the world for
Yes.
you to off yourself, and death pods and suicide pods. You can see that this trend of normalization of euthanasia, that if you don't feel good, you got some kind of disability, you're depressed, well, it's time to off yourself. So you're like, wait a minute, why are they doing this? This is just the introduction to get people ready to be conditioned for the crisis. So here's the crisis.
100%.
Now, we're already mainstreaming and getting you used to the solution even before the crisis is hit. And I didn't really think about that till right now, but I'm thinking, why are they all pushing active euthanasia so much and death pods and all this garbage and pushing it in the media? I mean, it's in the media all the time now.
Same reason they push abortion, vaccines, war, and all the rest of it, Brandon, because it's what it accomplishes the end goal, which is depopulation. I mean, that was the Brave New World, right? You lived to about 63, 64 years old, and they offed you because you were no longer needed. You were no longer considered productive to the society. Mm-hmm. This is what they're trying, the type of society that they're trying to bring in.
And they're also thinking about how are we going to quickly get rid of these people that aren't happy? They will willingly die. They will willingly die, but we can also profit from their death.
Yes, and they're also, Brandon, when you get depression in a society, high rates of depression, what they do is they offer you these psychotropic drugs, which do what? Make you more depressed.
Right.
And so, yeah, all those do is drive you to become suicidal. You're so depressed. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it all fits together in the end, Brandon, as one big depopulation scheme.
Look at this one. Will AI end education as you know it? Economist predicts schools, teachers, and teachers could become obsolete. That's Peter Schiff. Well, that wouldn't be hard. I don't want to pick on the good teachers, but most teachers, you know them, I know most of our government school teachers are morons. You know, there's only a small percentage that are really good, and a lot of those get out because they realize they won't let me do my job. They won't let me discipline these kids. They won't let me fail these kids. They don't make these kids behave. The good ones leave. It's like the good law, the good
That's the same
cops.
in the medical community. They've run most of the good doctors out.
And they've run out a lot of the good cops.
Absolutely. And the good journalists.
Yep.
So all these people that are being replaced, I mean, it's the bottom of the barrel that's left in these professions anyway.
Yep. What do you make of the tabletop exercise? There was another one I saw today. There was a second tabletop exercise I saw today. I got to see if I can find it. I don't remember where it was, but I saw another one today. But what do you make of the tabletop exercise we were talking about last week?
You know, it's just another event 201, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing that it took place in April of 2024 and we never heard about it.
Right.
Where was it hiding, Brandon? I mean, people like Nick Holshar, who do that for a living, you know, monitor those sorts of things, weren't even aware of it. So to me, that thing had to have been hiding very, very in a very good hiding place for people like Nick to not even be aware of it. People like you and me, as you know, that's one thing. We follow it pretty closely, too, but we follow a lot of things. Nick only follows that one narrow field of medical experimentation and research, and he wasn't even aware of it. That made a big point with me when I heard him tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me play a clip of Putin. People have to read the subtitle, but listen to who Putin says really runs the country, Leo. Here we go. That meaning America.
Понимаете, я уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим. Президенты приходят и уходят, а политика не меняется. Знаете почему? Потому что очень сильна власть бюрократии. Вот человека избрали, он приходит с одними идеями, к нему приходят люди с кейсами, хорошо одетые и в темных, как у меня, костюмах, но только не с красным галстуком, а с черным или с темно-синим. И начинают объяснять, как нужно делать. И все сразу меняется, понимаете? Это происходит от одной администрации к другой. Вот что-то изменить – это достаточно сложное дело. Это, я говорю без всякой иронии. Это не потому, что кому-то не хочется, а потому, что это сложно. Вот Обама, он же продвинутый человек, очень человек либеральных взглядов. Правда? Демократ. Он же перед выборами своими обещал закрыть Гуантанамо. Сделал? Нет. А почему? Он что, не хотел? Очень хотел. Я уверен, что хотел. Но не получилось. Он искренне к этому стремился. Не получается. Не так все просто. Но это не самый главный вопрос, хотя это важно. Это трудно себе представить. Да? Люди в кандалах ходят там уже десятилетиями, без суда и следствия. Ну, представьте себе, Франция бы так сделала, или Россия. С потрохами бы сожрали уже давно. Нет, в Соединенных Штатах это возможно. И до сих пор продолжается. Вот, кстати, к вопросу о демократии. Но я сейчас не для этого пример этот привел. Я привел потому, что не все так просто. Но все-таки у меня есть определенная доля сдержанного оптимизма. Мне кажется, что мы по ключевым вопросам можем и должны договаривать.
So what he's really saying is America is really run by guys in dark suits, which really would be your dark suits are your intelligence guys out of the CIA and the NSA.
100%.
He's saying America is not run by the president. It's run by the NSA and the CIA. And they do things and they never brief the president. Didn't we find that in Trump's first term? All these things that were going on that the CIA director, different people were keeping from him. Hey, that happens with every president, I'm sure, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure JFK was finding out about things they were doing. They're like, what? You know, so at the end of the day, who's really running this country? Well, we know since the assassination of John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, it's really the intelligence arena is running the country. They'll let President Trump do some things, but they're not going to let him have full control of this country. That's my opinion.
No, I mean, it's my opinion that was the initial coup of this country, was when they deep state offed John F. Kennedy. And every president since then, I think, knows their place, Brandon. And, you know, Chuck Schumer talked about it. He said, you don't go against these people because they've got 6 ways to Sunday to get even with you.
Yep.
And make sure that you don't go off the range. And if you do go off the range, well, you know, you can look forward to something really bad happening to you. You know, Trump had COVID. I don't know if that was a result of him being too successful in getting his agenda through in his first term. I don't know. But it sure seemed like everything hit a wall with COVID and then started reversing itself and turned one of the best presidencies in history, frankly, in my opinion, into one of the worst by the time. And that was just, you know, that last year of his 4-year term. Wiped out all the good that he'd done in his first 3 years.
Let's switch to this video I'm going to set up here in a minute. I went and checked real quick. Mitchell, from which the Mitchell Airfield in Milwaukee's name, the guy was a colonel, the brigadier general for a period of time. Then they court-martialed him or charged him because he was being too blunt. Mitchell infuriated the Navy by claiming he could sink ships that were under war conditions and boasted he could prove it if he were permitted to bomb captured German battleships. So just so folks understand, this guy was saying, quote, sea craft of all kinds, up to and including the most modern battleships, can be destroyed easily by bombs dropped from aircraft, and further, that the most effective means of destruction are bombs. They demonstrated beyond a doubt that given sufficient bombing planes and a short and adequate air force, aircraft constitute a positive defense of our country against hostile invasion, end quote. They didn't like that. And and this is the guy that warned us, 18 years in advance about war, about Pearl Harbor. So that's all just to set the context of the video I want to play. And here's the headline. We covered it tonight in the World Report. U.S. prepares for a long war with China that might hit its bases. Homeland. Closing comment on this before I roll to this, Leo?
I think we should expect it. I don't think it's something that's, you know, a small 10% chance of happening. I think we should expect it. It's just a matter of when, Brandon, because it all fits the narrative of driving the world towards war. And the biggest war of all will be when you're involving the biggest, most powerful militaries. And you're talking when you're talking about that, you're talking about China, the U.S., Russia. Europe is now arming up. They've got the wealth in those countries, if they decide to spend it on military upgrades, to do it. They've been forestalling that for years, spending less than 2% of their GDP on military. But now they're all starting to come around and saying, okay, yes, we'll go to 2.5%, we'll go to 3%, and we're going to build up a Europe-wide army, as Macron even talks about doing, right? And so we won't have to depend on the U.S. to start our wars for us anymore. We can start them on our own. We can inject our own troops into Ukraine and take on Russia and drive the world towards thermonuclear war. It's all going to happen probably in the next 2, 3, 4 years. Get ready for it, folks. Don't be surprised. Don't say it. Nobody warned you, because we're doing it right now. Now's the time to stock up on food, gasoline, and like I said earlier, just simple little things that you can buy very cheaply right now. Matches, lighters, candles, gas containers. These aren't expensive things. Water barrels. Now's the time to use your dollars, which still have some value, to buy these things that are readily available and not that expensive.
100%. Look at Leo's new article at leohoman.substack.com. leohoman.substack.com. Blurring the lines, making people more like machines and machines more like people at leohoman.substack.com. Yep. I think I don't see us avoiding World War III. I hope we do, but I don't. Right now, I would say the chances are very low for that. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I don't think it's going to reach our shores real quickly. I think we've got maybe another year or possibly two before America is directly, involved in it. We're already involved in it, but it's going to take a while to escalate to that level where we're seeing American cities come under attack.
But what about the general I'm about to play that says, look, but when China goes after Taiwan, the first thing they're going to do is shut the power down here.
I think it's going to happen. He says, it could happen in 2025 to 2027, I think is the time frame. So, it could be a matter of months. More than likely, it's going to be, I think, a year or two down the road.
I think David Pine thinks it could be this fall.
It could be. Absolutely. I mean, I'm just going from experience. It seems like these things progress and escalate a lot slower than we expect. I mean, this war in Ukraine, it started 3.5 years ago now almost. I mean, and it's still not over. It's just these little escalations, every 6 to 8 months, we see a new major escalation. And it's coming, Brandon. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, absolutely. LeoHoman.substack.com and LeoHoman.com. Thank you, Leo. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too, Brandon.
All right. Before I go to this this general making this one-star general, commander of Edwards Air Force Base, making this stirring speech, 25 minutes long. You need to watch the whole thing. He's got PowerPoint and everything. I mean, this really should be something that's coming from the Oval Office, from the president. This should be a warning to all the American people. But here's a general trying to at least warn his community around his base. Now, before we do, folks, where are you going to get this kind of programming? I ask that every night. And a lot of you know there's not another network like ours, but that's by design. But we need your support. Go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, please. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. These are products I use each and every day. You know it. The Gatatana, which is the phytoplankton, one little scoop, equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. I take a scoop every day. You see me drinking it here at the desk. I give a half a scoop on the dog food of my beloved Dolly, my studio dog. That cat had a tumor. They got it on the Gatatana, and the tumor went away. Remember the man that developed it? They gave him a terminal diagnosis. He started eating the phytoplankton that he was raising for shellfish, and his 11 biopsies came back benign. He lived another 10 years, retired to Hawaii, they tell me. I also do my Bella Grace every day. That's this powerful elixir with 3 powerful ingredients. That's at melissahousebg.com. 80 clinical trials on that. 80 clinical trials. And there's a lot of you in this audience that subscribe to this. You get it every month because it works. Otherwise, you'd cancel your subscriptions. But it works for you, and it's working for me. And your problems are not my problems, and my problems are not your problems. We don't necessarily have the same problems. We all have different areas. And like Dr. Mark Miller said when he first introduced this to us, it'll go to where your body needs it. And mine was obviously a leaky gut. My hands quit cracking and bleeding. It was obviously some kind of digestive issue. I was sitting straight up, sleeping a lot of nights due to acid reflux. I got better hair growth. My acid reflux is gone. My hands aren't cracking and bleeding. There's a lot of benefits. Some of you say you could barely walk around a store because of the pain. You got on this, okay, it's probably that anti-inflammatory in there, and your pain went away. Guy wrote in a couple weeks ago, his wife had leg pain for 10 years. Doctors couldn't figure it out. His wife got on Bella Grace for about 10 days. Pain's gone away. We get that all the time. I mean, to the average person, you're like, oh, that sounds crazy. Well, I know it does, doesn't it? But we've been flooded since we started promoting this in November of 2023. We've been flooded with stories and testimonies in print like that. We've shown them to you. We've read them to you. I do that every day. Bella Grace. I do my Numi every day. That's glutathione to detox my cells. Swishforlife.com, get the glutathione, swish with it, about 3 minutes, swallow it, spit it out, detox your cells. Including, studies show, removing mercury from your brain to help prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Yep. And then, of course, the water you drink is very important. You don't want to be drinking all these chemicals. You don't want to be drinking chemicals that can actually cause cancers, right? You want to drink clean water, pure water, filtered water. And this filter works. It also adds oxygen. And we know how good oxygen is to our cells. Worldviewwater.net. We use all these products every day. I'm drinking it right now. In this mug right here is water that's come from one of these filters. Worldviewwater.net. And it's just a few right there. All right. With that, I want to go to this 25-minute keynote presentation given just in May by the commander, the general. He's a commander, or he's the commander, but he's a general, but he's the commander of Edwards Air Force Base, warning local leaders as well about what to expect to their community. But he also says this is going to happen with military bases all over the country. We need to pay attention because a lot of Americans are not ready. And maybe you can take this after we post it online and send it to your pastor, your mayor, your city council members, your county commissioners, your sheriff, your friends, your neighbors, and say, look, wake up. This is serious. And we just saw what happened with Ukraine sneaking those drones into Russia and taking out their bombers. Add that to the equation. Add that to the equation. This is very important, and it's very interesting. It's got a lot of history in it, too. So you need to watch this. Watch it.
Next slide. And so it's worthwhile going back, as we're talking culminating events, just to go back and take a look at a historical culminating event, since we're taking a peek at history. Everybody probably recognizes Pearl Harbor. This is 18 months before Pearl Harbor. Interestingly enough, 18 years prior to that, go ahead and build twice for me. So that's Brigadier General William Billy Mitchell, a staunch early advocate of air power. In 1924, he wrote a report, and you can read what he wrote there. 18 years before Pearl Harbor happened, he predicted Pearl Harbor. He was off by a little bit. He was off by 18 minutes. The actual attack, it was on a Sunday morning. He says the attack's going to happen on a Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. The first bombs actually dropped and the torpedoes were dropped at 7:48 a.m. on a Sunday morning. He actually got closer with Clark Field in the Philippines, different time zone. He said 10:40, it was actually 10:30. And he did it just based on geography and math. You know, how long do airplanes fly? They want to take off of the carriers, launch from carriers at sunrise, they need to fly. He predicted the targets. We kind of ignored him. He was a bit of a zealot. He was an air power zealot. He was actually court-martialed by the Army. He was ultimately given, it was misreported once as the Congressional Medal of Honor. It wasn't the Medal of Honor, but he did receive very high honors posthumously for kind of his air power advocacy. But we didn't listen to him. Go ahead and get to the next slide. And of course, that's what happened on that Sunday morning in 1942. December 7th, 1942, that day that will live in infamy. And we didn't listen. 18 years prior, he told us, with only 18 minutes of error. If Admiral Hirohito had said, hey, on Sunday morning at 7:30, we're going to bomb Pearl Harbor, we might have listened to Admiral Hirohito. Or actually Admiral Yamamoto. It was the Emperor Hirohito. We might have listened to the Emperor of Hirohito if Hirohito, the Emperor of Japan, had said, we're going to bomb Japan, just so you know. We might have listened. What if Chairman Xi tells us what he's going to do? Would we pay attention? Next slide. So this date of 2027, actually, the closer we get to it, the less worried that I am. This date has changed significantly over time. So when Chairman Xi first came to power, first seized power, and he's now rewritten the Constitution. Normally, chairmen can only serve for a 10-year term. He has rewritten the Constitution, so he can serve as long as he wants to. And his father lived into his 90s, if I'm not mistaken. So Chairman Xi could be around for a long time. And he's also systematically eliminated all of his political opposition in the Chinese Communist Party. So he has a lockhold. And so we don't talk about China as a nation. We talk about the Chinese Communist Party. There's a single authoritarian rule that dictates everything. It's authoritarian dictatorship. And by the Chinese Communist Party, since there is no political opposition, it's pretty much whatever Chairman Xi thinks. So that's why we can talk about what one person thinks. And that's why we're often trying to communicate directly with him. That, look, don't start World War III, because we got the B-21. So originally in 2013, he gave the PLA, he says, I want a modern military. And then about the 2019 timeframe, he gave it 2035. And then he moved that date up to 2032. And then he's moved it forward. So he has moved it back in time to give a more aggressive target, because he is afraid of an inability. And so that 2027 date is the latest date. And I'm going to show you the growth that China has made towards that 2027, and it is absolutely staggering. So go to the next slide for me, please. So here's the, and it's a bit incorrect historically to talk about a reunification of Taiwan. Except for a brief period of time, Taiwan has been an independent country. It's actually spent more time under Japanese control than it has mainland China control. It was the only reason it came under China. It was actually part of the negotiated treaty at the end of World War II that China got. But then, of course, when China had their revolution, Mao Zedong, and then the nationalist China fell back onto the island of Formosa. So it's not correct to talk about a reunification. That's the language that Chairman Xi wants us to use. It's actually a forced unification. It would be a more proper way to talk about it. But here's the challenge. It's only about 90 miles across the strait here. So there's we don't talk about, normally you have international airspace or you have waters, exclusive economic zones out to 200 nautical miles. You got 12 miles off the coast. There's an ADIZ that's typically, out there several hundred miles. You don't have that territory there. So we talk about the median line. And I'll show you the stats of how frequently the People's Liberation Army is violating that line. But here's the challenge, is how do you get all your forces from here over to here? That's why Taichung Airport sits right there. And this is a translation. So this is a screenshot from an internal People's Liberation Army plan. And you can see all these ports here. That's part of the challenge. There's only 5 deep water ports on the island of Taiwan. Of course, they're heavily defended. Which is a good idea, right? If you want peace, prepare for war. But China's got a plan for that. Next slide. So you don't need a deep water port. So this is a new satellite imagery from just a couple weeks ago. These are relocatable piers. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are each independent ships. These little gantry things here. So you can actually sail across the 90 miles. You link them up. And you can go about a mile out into open water, so you actually don't need a deep water port. And you just bring up a roll-on, roll-off, and tanks just roll right off there onto the beach wherever you want. They're actively doing this right now, in plain sight. Next slide. This is their shipbuilding capacity. They have 200, there's dozens state-owned shipyards in China. We have 4. They have 230 times the capacity. Just one shipyard in China last year alone, in 2024, built more tonnage of ships than the U.S. did since the end of World War II. In 1 year, they built more ships than we have built by tonnage, which is what matters, than we built since the end of World War II. Next slide. And they're not just, we used to count, well, it's just cheap China technology. We've got that technological advantage like we had over the Soviets. It's not. China is now a modern force. This is a stealth frigate. They just commissioned this ship in January. This is a frigate. It's designed for anti-submarine warfare. So that's one of the advantages that we still have over the People's Liberation Army Navy is our submarine technology. Unfortunately, the Straits of Taiwan are very, very shallow. Pretty easy to find submarines. And if you want to go after submarines, this is how you do it. These are stealth frigates specifically designed for area denial anti-submarine warfare. Very, very modern. Next slide. And they have the capacity to build lots of these. And so this was the order of battle in the Pacific. We're April now, so this was 2 years ago. This was in March of 23. And already you can see, just a comparison. These are not all of our forces. This is just our forces across the Air Force and Navy that are deployed to the Indo-PACOM theater. So this is what is underneath the PACOM commander. But we are vastly outnumbered by the People's Liberation Army. Next slide. This is what is projected, the intelligence, unclassified intelligence prediction for 2027. So go ahead and, Mary, go back for me, and then go forward, and do it one more time. And forward, there we go. And the important thing is that, these are 5th gen. So these Type 055, these are stealth destroyers. Those are what are designed to go out and protect the aircraft carriers now. So the J-35 is a stealth, 5th gen stealth carrier capable fighter that the People's Liberation Army has. Advanced submarines, hypersonic missiles. This force is specifically designed to counter our strengths. And for them to be, for Chairman Xi, when he says, well, now's the time, and China is going to emerge from 6,000 years of history and exert its dominance, its regional dominance, and then rewrite the world order, it has the capability to do that if it wants to. Next slide. And they're aggressively doing that. So this is the largest naval operation in the Pacific since World War II, happened last December, over 3 days. It was, the island of Taiwan was completely encircled. There were picket lines set out here by the People's Liberation Army Navy. Normally, so for example, when we do RIMPAC, we announce years in advance, hey, we're about to do RIMPAC, big exercise, coalition, allies, we're all going to partner together, and it's going to happen 3 years from now. We plan for it, everybody knows it's going to happen, people steer out of the way. China just did this without telling the world what it's doing. It could have been the start. In fact, for a while there, it looked like the invasion had started. Because the Navy just showed up and they surrounded Taiwan. Did they just blockade the island? So that was the largest naval operation, close to 100 Navy ships in coordination. Here are all of the events since 2021, all the operations, to include just last month as well. All these dots right here, again, unannounced until it started, the People's Liberation Army Navy put 3 ships between Australia and New Zealand and started launching live missiles, doing live fire exercises. Now, they did tell Australia when they started firing. They said, hey, oh, by the way, we're going to be out here doing a live fire exercise. Australia had to reroute commercial air traffic that was already in the air to avoid the area. Again, no warning whatsoever. After they got done firing those missiles there, those 3 ships actually then sailed all the way around Australia before they went home. Again, sending a very, very deliberate message. Again, I don't like that. It's not a reunification, it's a forced unification. Next slide. And so if we look at, in the, really, just since 2022, this is the number of incursions, so that, again, that air defense identification zone. So in the case of Taiwan, it's the median line, so 90 miles across. We drew a line right down the middle, and we said, okay, over here, that's the People's Republic of China. Over here, it's the island of Taiwan's. And it's just what they're trying to do is desensitize us from incursions into that. So we're into hundreds. And you can see that China does it in response or provocatively as they see fit. You know, this little decrease right here was right after the election. And then they can ramp back up anytime they want. Next slide. And so this is where I'm going to bring it back to the Aerospace Valley. You know, it's real easy to say, okay, well, all right, so that's Taiwan. Even if they're not ethnic Chinese, or you know, there's a different heritage, and they're not quite Chinese, they're still Eastern Asian, and you know, so maybe we should just kind of let that go and not start World War III over the island of Taiwan. 95% of the advanced microchips are built in Taiwanese fabs by TSMC. TSMC is something different that we do up at Edwards. TSMC. 95% of the advanced microchips. Now we're in the process of building some fabs here. We don't have them. So one of the things that we have tried to do as artificial intelligence, again, we're one of those inflection points, a decisive decade for another reason, is we are denying the export controls on advanced microchips to China. Do you think Chairman Xi would have any qualms whatsoever if they took over Taiwan of denying access to those microchips now that they are writing the rules to the US? So it does matter for lots of reasons. China has built at a staggering speed. The rate at which they've built all those ships and built that Navy and built that Air Force, built that rocket force, built the hypersonics missiles, has been staggering. But they do more than that. They are also targeting our critical infrastructure right here. We know that the Chinese have infiltrated our electrical grids. There is Chinese malware on all the SCADA systems that control electric power communications. The first indication that we have that the invasion of Taiwan has started is probably that the lights go out and that the cellular network doesn't work anymore. If it did work and you could still log into your bank account, you might not actually see anything because all the records might be scrambled. It might be confusing. There's a way to actually attack us without attacking us. Next slide. And so just as an indication, it wouldn't be that easy. So if you remember that blackout in 2003 that affected the entire Northeast, and so we're talking about the Eastern Interconnect. There's 3 different regions. When you put current down wires, they tend to sag. So during the summertime, when the wind's not blowing, the electrical wires can sag. And if it turns out that there's trees there and they sag into a tree, you can actually short out a line. So that actually happened in Ohio. This little line going up to Cleveland sagged into the line. So that one came off. Was kicked offline because it shorted out. Not a big deal, pretty resilient, right? But then the next one sagged because it was carrying more current. It kicked offline, so now more current is flowing this way. That one sagged, that one sagged. Now all of this power is flowing just from there. That actually sets off a chain reaction of reactive power being out of sync with the rest of the grid and leads to a rapid domino effect of the entire grid going down. It's fairly balanced, finely balanced all the time. And if you disrupt it, the entire system can collapse. And that's exactly what happened. Ultimately, 55 million people lost power. 100 people died during this from the power loss. And it was only for a couple hours. Think about if the electrical grid goes down for 6 months, because that could happen. Now, the system's not as fragile as it was in 2003, but that was a tree. That was just a natural, warm summer day. Everybody turned their air conditioners on. The line's going. Now, we don't have a lot of trees around here, but there is Chinese malware in the SCADA systems on our grid. They are in all of our critical infrastructure. Next slide. So, China has more cyber operators than the rest of the world combined. There was an article in The Economist last week, Tracking the Hacking, is what it's titled, that overviews all of the operations that China's done everywhere that they are, and by a person for person. In fact, earlier, it was actually at the start of March, we're now in April, but we just indicted 12 named People's Liberation Army cyber operators. We indicted them in federal court. Now, of course, they're living in China, so unless they ever come here, we're probably never actually going to. But we've identified them. Go ahead and build for me. So this is a list since 2024 of all the cyber attacks, named cyber attacks, known cyber attacks from China, originating from China. The designation that we use, typhoons are attacks that originate from China. Dust storms are ones that come from Iran. Blizzards are cyber operations that start from Russia. These are the named operations. Go ahead and build for me, and I'll mention just a couple of them. So Volt Typhoon, we've known about since 2019, 2020 timeframe. This is Chinese malware in all of our critical infrastructure: water, electrical, communications, oil, air traffic control. They're in the SCADA systems. We know that they're there. We can't actually get them out. So that's Volt Typhoon. We've known about that one for several years now. What just emerged late last fall, Salt Typhoon. Salt Typhoon, we know it's been going on since 2021. This is 9 different US telecoms companies have been acknowledged that the Chinese have gotten access to their servers and have complete phone records of all of the phone calls from those telecommunications, to include my government phone, to include when he was candidate for president, candidate Trump, Mr. Trump. They have all of his records for the last 4 years. Vice President Kamala Harris records they had. The vice presidential candidate at the time, Mr. Vance, they had his phone records. So they know every single person that every government phone, as well as everybody else's, has had. That is deeply concerning, particularly as you look, just how often we are using messaging apps and other types of things. There's concern about if they're CIA operatives, and who have they called in China, and so maybe that we've just uncovered human. So that is Salt Typhoon, and we still can't kick them out. We know that there's 9 telecommunications companies that are affected. We know that they're still in the system. Once you have admin privileges, it's very, very easy to hide. This is what is known as advanced persistent incursions. And it's something that all those cyber operators in China are very, very adept at doing. The newest one was just named last month, Silk Typhoon. This is China's cyber operations targeting our cloud services. Anybody use Microsoft Teams for anything? Amazon Web Services? All these cloud services that we're becoming reliant on, this is the targeted operations against cloud services. China is doing it. Next slide. And there's a lot of them doing it. Next slide. So I do want to be very, very clear. I've been picking a lot on Chairman Xi, and I think he deserves it. We do not have a beef, though, with the Chinese people, with the people of China. There is a very, very long and rich heritage and cultural history, 6,000 years, probably the oldest continuous civilization on the planet is the Chinese civilization. We have no disagreement with the people of China. They are actually probably suffering just as much under authoritarian dictatorship as we will if Chairman Xi decides now's the time for China to emerge as the sole dominant superpower of the world, and oh, by the way, I got the army to do it if I want to. So again, it's very, very important, I think, as we talk. I try to be very careful, and I think we all should as we're doing this, is that we don't say, China's doing this or the Chinese this or that, because it's not about the Chinese people. I consider ourselves, we're probably on the same side. They probably don't like living underneath authoritarian communist, Chinese Communist Party leadership. It is specifically, we are trying to change Chairman Xi's calculus with what we're doing up at Edwards Air Force Base with the capability that we're developing. And it's also a dire picture. I am actually optimistic still. Next slide, please. There are 2 books. Go ahead and Bill for me. So if you want to read more about kind of just the geopolitical situation that we're in, here's 2. So the one on your left by Brands and Beckley. They are professors at Johns Hopkins University. They are both fellows of the American Enterprise Institute, which is a conservative think tank, apolitical but conservative. The Danger Zone. They paint a no end of scenarios. It's very easy to imagine a series of scenarios that just result in World War III, to include, kind of the attacks on our critical infrastructure here. So this is a war. If this war happens, it's going to happen here. It's going to come to us. We are going to feel the effects. This is not just the people of Taiwan. This is not going to be like us watching the news and seeing what's happening in Ukraine. This is something that's going to happen here, and that's why we're having this conversation. So this one is probably scenario kind of scary. This one is hopeful, optimistic. So Kevin Rudd, he paints a picture of an avoidable war. So Kevin Rudd is the Australian ambassador to the United States right now. He was previously Prime Minister of Australia, and then after that, he was actually Foreign Minister. He studied in China. He's a fluent Mandarin speaker. He knows China very well. He understands Chairman Xi. He's actually written a second book just on Chairman Xi. He also knows the U.S. very well. He has spent time in school here in the United States as well, and has been the ambassador here. So he understands both of these countries. And so the avoidable war is his prognosis on how do we avoid World War III, potentially civilization-ending war between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party. Next slide. The other reason I'm optimistic is because we're actually talking about it right now. So just like those cavemen, even before the Roman Republic, where they were stacking up their stones at the entrance to the cave just in case that other cave clan came by. We are preparing for war right now, and that's part of the conversation that we're going to have here, and that we're going to continue to have. And again, I love the way Congressman Fong said it, and Assemblyman Lackey is like, this is just the first conversation about ongoing dialogue that we need to have about how do we be ready.
All right, folks. Pretty fascinating, 25 minutes. And I venture to guess we're probably one of the only shows to play you that, because I went looking for it. When it was in our Worldview report, I went looking for it. And Leo is my senior producer. He knew about the article from Reuters, which is right here. He knew about this article. But you just heard him say earlier he hadn't seen that video. And so I went looking for it, thinking, I wonder if they filmed that guy's speech. And sure enough, they did. So I venture to guess we're one of the only outlets in America to play that. Logan told me the other day that our podcast now is in the top 1% of all podcasts downloaded in America. Right, Logan? So why do you think? Because we're not doing what everybody else is doing. We don't go to Breitbart and Drudge and a few other websites and rip our news and everybody says the same thing all day long. That's what most talk radio is. Boring. Yeah, we go deeper. And by going deeper, yeah, I'm sure we lose some of the people that can't keep up. But that's fine, because we're trying to train people here to be thinkers and leaders. Many of you already are thinkers. You already are leaders. That's why you come here, because you think and you want to think and you want to learn new stuff. So yeah, we could keep it dumbed down. We could just do rip and reads of what's ever in the conservative blogosphere, but that's boring. We strive to be different, covering things weeks, months, and oftentimes years ahead of everyone else, so that we can be ready when everybody else is still asking, what is going on? How did this happen? How did we get here? Where's it going? Now, if you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support. Let me close with this, folks. Go to Worldview Talk. Go to Worldview Talk. With all that's going on in the world and all the threats, don't you think you need a satellite phone? Don't you think you need a satellite phone? Because that guy was just talking, that general was just talking about your cell towers going down, your power grid going down. You might want to find a way to communicate with your family outside cell phone towers, like the bivvy. You just take the bivvy, you sync it to your cell phone, and you text. You compose the text on your cell phone, sending it through the bivvy to a satellite and down to your family member that has a bivvy, and they read it right on their phone. You're just using your phone to compose it and to send it and receive it, but it's going through this bivvy to a satellite and then down to their bivvy and to their phone, because you're now using a satellite, not the cell towers. These are very inexpensive. worldviewtalk.com. You can also get a solar generator because these are going to work nicely to be able to charge that cell phone, to be able to charge the device, to be able to charge your satellite phone, to charge your iPad, to run some lamps, run your refrigerator, run that hot plate, or whatever it is you're doing, that electric stove. Think about these things. Again, I have a Delta Echo 400, pretty good size solar generator. It's a backup to my Generac. We have the bulletproof backpacks. Now with the Starlink, you can still, with the Starlink, you could still, if the power grid went down, you could still, if you had a battery to plug that Starlink into, you would still be getting satellite signals to be able to send emails, receive emails, pick up television. Because some groups are still going to be broadcasting. The question is, do you have the ability to pick it up outside of a cell tower or internet? But if you're going off a Starlink to do, that's satellite. And the Starlink is free when you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. You probably want to call them and ask questions so you get exactly what you need. 1-866-738-3224, 1-866-738-3224. Okay? And then, of course, finally, don't forget about our foundation. This is one of the most powerful ways you can support us. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Now, Lord willing, I'll be back Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, for lesson 40. Over 40 hours it will be after this Sunday, teaching through the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 17, verse 1, 8 p.m. Central Time, Sunday night. It's 9 Eastern at worldviewtube.com. Our Sunday night church service brought to you by our foundation, which helps us push out lots of free content programming, TV specials, documentaries for free so people can understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. So please make a contribution, won't you? Worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music, guys. Let's call it a night. I hope you have a great weekend. And thank you again to all of you that do support us. We really appreciate it. And if you can't financially afford to support us, will you pray for us? Will you promote us? Hey, consider going to worldviewstore.com. Get all those free business cards, a pack of 20, pass them out everywhere. And you run out, get another pack. All right? Thank you for spreading the word about Worldview Tube, where people can understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. May God save America. Take care.
Spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work,